Jerry McClanahan and Jim Ross. We are here to talk to you today about touring Route 66. And for those of you who may be new to the Route 66 experience, or for a seasoned roadie, we'd like to help you get the most out of your trip. Here is the short version of our bios. All of us have been in the forefront of the Route 66 Renaissance since it began over 25 years ago. Jerry is an accomplished artist and author of The Easy Guide. Jim is the author of Oklahoma Route 66, Route 66 Crossings, which comes out in spring. And all three of us authored the award-winning photography book, Route 66 Sightings. I wrote the book on the Coral Court Motel and co-producer of the film Built for Speed, based on Coral Court. Both Jim and Jerry have been exploring, mapping, and writing about Route 66 for more than 20 years. For this session, I will serve as moderator, and Jim and Jerry hopefully will give us answers to the questions that will prove useful and interesting. We will have Q&A at the end, so we ask that you kindly hold your questions until then, and in the meantime, feel free to take notes. So let us begin with our first question. Preparation. Next slide. Preparation for the journey. Jerry, how have you prepared for a Route 66 trip down the Mother Road?
Well, Route 66 covers 8 states and over 2,000 miles, and there are hundreds of attractions, icons, and places you'll want to visit. So it's important to try to do some homework before time. And just conveniently, there are a lot of books out there that deal in all aspects of the Mother Road. There are books on each state, there are books on regions, there's books on towns, then there's guidebooks. There's guidebooks that will tell you how to drive the route. There's a map series that tells you how to drive it. All of these resources can be used before your trip to get a feel of what the road could be to you, about what might interest you, and that way you're not going off without any idea at all of what awaits you on your trip.
Yeah, serendipity plays a role. A lot of people like to just hit the road with minimal guide materials and kind of experience it as they go. But personally, I think you've got to do some research. You really should educate yourself about the highway to some extent before you start exploring. For a lot of obvious reasons, but I think that if you want to not only know which attractions have the most interest for you, which people you might want to specifically try to meet, things like that, that's good. But the research also helps you to better identify with and feel something about some of the landmarks, the icons, and even the people that you're going to meet. So I think preparation is really important in terms of not only acquiring guidebooks, but some of the other books that will tell stories about the highway and some of its landmarks. So, you know, we're going to get into some things like lodging and dining with a little further on, but the main thing about preparation is educating yourself on the route so that you get the most out of the experience.
Next slide, please. Number 2, choosing the time of year to travel. That's very subjective, isn't it? Jim, what do you think?
Well, choosing the time of year is totally subjective. A lot of times it's dictated by your job or whether you have children in school, things like that. So we don't always get to choose. Obviously, you don't want to walk out of your hotel room some morning and find your vehicle looking like this. So it's good to look at weather forecasts, kind of figure out, especially if you're traveling in the winter. And wintertime can be a beautiful time to travel the route, not only if you're a photographer and you like to shoot landscapes, but because there's likely to be a little bit less traffic congestion in some areas. So Time of year, personally, I like the fall. October is probably would be my favorite month to travel the route. But really, there's not what I would say is a bad time to travel the route. So everybody's got a preference that depends on what your goals are for your trip as well.
I would say the best time to drive Route 66 is as soon as possible. And as often as possible. You know, we're losing a lot of the icons of the Mother Road every year. We lost Gary Turner this year. We lost many others. So it's good to get out on the road and visit and meet these people. And you know, it doesn't have to be just a one-time thing. But I agree with Jim that fall is an excellent time to drive 66. Spring is great. You do have to watch out for some severe weather at times. Summer, the summer months when kids are off of school, they can get decidedly hot in places. But, you know, as long as you're prepared, as long as you're ready and can expect a little delay, any time of the year can be a nice Route 66 trip.
Yeah, the heat of the summer is even that can work to your advantage in certain situations. Again, especially if you like to take photographs. I know we have some photographers sitting out here. I see David Schwartz sitting there. I don't know, there's Casey Kiefer in here somewhere. Anyway, so the summer, you know, you're more likely to get some nice thunderstorms and photographs, maybe some dramatic sunsets and things like that. So there's really not a bad time of year. Jerry says the sooner the better. I can't disagree with that at all. Just, you know, anytime you can go. Don't try to do the whole trip at once. And if you like fall colors, go with me, because that's when I like to go.
We're going to go on to number 3, the next slide. Planning how much time to allow. Jerry.
Well, that kind of segued from what Jim just said. Don't try to do it all at once. Route 66, as we said, is over 2,400 miles. And if you're trying to do a trip where you're driving all of Route 66 from Chicago to Santa Monica, and you're going to stop at a lot of museums and see a lot of attractions, and go to the Grand Canyon and go to Las Vegas and all the things that people like to do along the road, it's going to take a while. If you had a month, you could take a pretty nice Route 66 vacation and take your time. A lot of people don't have that much time. A couple of weeks can be done. If it's less than that, we recommend doing a half of the road or a third of the road. Just get a good bite-sized chunk of the Mother Road and enjoy that road while you're on it, and then come back and do the next section later. Some people will fly out to like LA and then rent a car and cover the sections they've missed. It's not so much of how much you see or how quickly you go, it's what you're seeing while you're on it and enjoying it while you're on the road.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing that's a given is you will get behind schedule. It's just the nature of the beast. So it's important that if you have a time restriction because of your job or other circumstances, that you try to plan a portion of the road that you can reasonably do in the time that you have. And if you do find yourself getting behind schedule, my advice is to don't worry about trying to meet your predetermined endpoint. Rather enjoy the parts that you're able to do to the full extent and pick up where you left off on the next trip. And remember, there's you know, Route 66 is one of those things where it begins where you get on and ends where you get off. So you don't have to set any deadlines. I know we're preaching to the choir here with some of you folks, but it happens to everybody, and some of us get this thing in our head that we have to be a certain place, and sometimes you're basically tied to do that because of hotel reservations and such. We're gonna talk about that in a second.
What a great segue. The next slide is lodging and dining. What do you think, Jerry, Jim? reservations or what?
I talk to a lot of people that stop by my place in Chandler, Oklahoma, and sometimes it's the tragedy of they've pre-booked all their rooms and they left Joplin, Missouri that morning and they reached Chandler at like 3 in the afternoon and they say, we're booked in Amarillo, how long will it take to get there? And I have to tell them it's 5 hours by interstate without getting out of your car. It's best to not plan ahead that far if you can. There are some exceptions. The Blue Swallow Motel in Tucumcari is usually full. You might want to reserve a room in advance for that. But otherwise, go with the flow. If it's in the afternoon and you see that, hey, we'll make Grants, New Mexico, or we'll make Holbrook, then go ahead and look in your guide, get the phone number, call them up and see if they'll hold you a room. But, you know, don't be driven by the bed at the end of your day. Be driven by what you're seeing now and enjoy the day. Jim mentioned serendipity later. You're going to meet some cool people. You're going to run into somebody that will talk to you for 2 or 3 hours. You're going to go into a museum and just not want to leave, you know. You're going to want to stop by the road and wait for a cloud to go out from over the sun so you can get your picture. You can plan too much, so allow for Route 66 time, which is a lot different from real time.
Yeah, when I run into people that are traveling the route, one question I always like to ask them is, well, where will you be tonight, or where are you staying tomorrow night? Pardon me. And inevitably, they tell me the name of a destination that's not realistic. And I think, wow, you're going to have to do a lot interstate to make it. Well, we have motel reservations. Jerry's already talked about this. I think it's important, though, both of us obviously are advocates of staying in mom and pop motels. And there's plenty of them out there. There's plenty of good ones. I think with the right planning that you can make a trip the entire length of the route without ever stepping across the threshold of a chain motel and have a great experience doing it. There are some out there that probably not such a good experience, but so many people that I talk to are reluctant to stay at the mom and pop motels because they feel more comfortable. They feel like they're not risking anything by sticking with something that's already proven to them, like a Best Western or Hampton Inn or something like that. But a big part of the experience is getting the feel of the nostalgia of the route, and you cannot do that, staying at Holiday Inn Express. No offense, since most of us are staying in a Holiday Inn Express here. But the mom and pop motels are really important. You think, well, I got to book those ahead of time. Well, not necessarily. As Jerry mentioned, you call ahead the same afternoon when you realize what your destination is going to be, and odds are you will get a room. Even in places, maybe not the Blue Swallow or the Wigwam and Holbrook, but you'll get a room in most of these places. So I think that's very important, and it's just, I can't emphasize enough with the dining and the lodging and whatnot. Some people like to have sit-down meals. Some people get out and take more photographs than others. All of these things take time, and you just can't imagine, some of you can, but how far behind schedule you can get without even realizing it. So we do recommend the dining and lodging guide that's published by the National Historic Route 66 Federation, which is available everywhere, Amazon, at the Federation website and so forth. So, and it's a good tool because they keep it current in terms of what kind of reports they're getting from various motels and dining establishments.
And please cut these old classic motels a break. If you're staying in a 1939 motel, the bathroom's going to be small, the rooms themselves may be a little crowded, maybe there's cracked tile that was put down there in 1939. As long as it's clean and comfortable and safe, just, you can't expect a modern motel amenities in something that was built in the 30s, That's what you're actually staying there for. You want to experience that reality.
I'm just a sucker for those old vintage motels with their neon signs and tiny tile bathrooms with little cracks in them. Okay. Let's move on. Number 6. No, number 5. Challenges to prepare for. Jim, is there something going on along the road that I need to be aware of?
Well, we, on the map series that we publish, we have a disclaimer right there on every map that says, be prepared to make adjustments as you go. And the reason being is no matter how current your guide materials or even your GPS, you're going to probably run into some kind of little something somewhere. It may be a traffic accident that requires a detour. It may be something even a lot more distracting, such as you come to an intersection in a town, you find out, hey, it's not an intersection anymore, it's a traffic circle. Or, and to me, one of the worst is when you encounter a situation where they've actually changed the name of a street. So you just gotta be prepared. If you make a wrong turn, you get off the track, you get out there somewhere, it's a good idea to have a current state highway map for whatever state you're in your vehicle with you so you can get yourself back where you need to be.
It's kind of the bane of my existence as a guidebook writer. So when you bring out a new edition, immediately things start changing along the road. There's like a huge section of 66 in California right now that's bypassed because of damage from a year ago that's slowly being repaired. There are always construction projects, especially in the major cities. There's always things like Jim talked about name changes. I handle that in between editions by posting changes like that on my website. There's also other internet sites like Route 66 News and some of the other Facebook pages that will help you find out information about what is happening along the Mother Road. But you gotta expect changes, you gotta expect detours, it's going to happen. So it's just a part of the evolution of the route.
Yeah, you know, another thing to be aware of, most of the states have signage up along the route, the historic Route 66 signs, and sometimes what those signs are telling you may contradict what you're seeing in your guide materials. And there are legitimate reasons for that, usually. But the signs, typically I recommend that people do not try to do the route by following these signs, because the signs tend to get weathered, stolen, knocked over. Sometimes they will send you down a certain alignment that maybe you prefer not to take. So the best thing in my thinking is to rely on whatever guide materials you use to plan your trip and whatever turn-by-turn directions you may be using for your trip, and try to stick with that, even if it conflicts with what some of these signs are telling you.
Now the signs will help reassure you on your way. Illinois and Missouri have the best signage on the route. As you get further west, the signs get a little less, more few and far between. But it's always nice to turn a corner and then spot a historic 66 sign.
Thank you. Yes. Let's do the next slide. There are some definite must-sees along the Mother Road. What do you think, Jim?
The must-sees. Well, you know, people ask me a lot, you know, what's your favorite place on the route, and what's your favorite state, what's your favorite stretch of road, so on and so forth. It's kind of like asking you who's your favorite child. You know, it's a totally 100% subjective kind of thing. So we're not going to sit here today and tell you that you need to see this or you need to see that, because as you do your preparation, you will decide for yourself what are the things most important to you and of most interest to you. And the good news is you're probably not going to end up sticking to that completely. You're going to find some things along the way that you're drawn to, and will be some of that will be the best part of your trip.
Okay, I would have to say that the most important attraction of Route 66 that you should not miss is its people. That is what I hear from travelers from all over the world. They can't believe how friendly the people they meet on Route 66 are. I hear that every day.